Welcome back, Ninjas and Ninjets, to another edition of the Ncj Podcast. It's your host, Alexander T. Roll. So it's been a while, a couple of weeks since the last podcast, about 3 weeks or so. The last podcast was at the beginning of this month on the 3rd. Today's the 27th of June, 2016. A lot has happened this month. I've had a lot of things change at my job personally. I've been promoted into my boss's position. For those who don't know, I work security at a nuclear facility, which one I'm not going to say for confidential reasons. But I've been working at this place for 11 years now. I started doing patrols on the graveyard shift, and then after a while I was promoted to the swing shift. And then I advanced into a training officer, and then after busting my ass, I was promoted into the locksmith and lead officer position. Now I run the account, okay? But I wasn't promoted on good tidings and blessings. My boss, whom I've known for 10 years, had been getting this really bad cough for the last few months. I would hear him coughing so loud, I could hear him down a hallway that's separated by a thick, solid door, and it's in a concrete enforced area. This guy smoked for 50 years. He found out a couple of weeks ago that he has stage 3 lung cancer, and the doctors gave him a few years max to live if he didn't start treatment. It's crazy shit. Chunki and I stopped smoking cigarettes for like 6 or 7 years now, and I recommend all you folks do the same, but I'm not going to preach. It's your own vice. You do what you do. So I have to sit and consider the frequency of the show. As you can see, I've decided to change the days from Friday to Monday, but I'm not sure if that would be permanent or not. I might even go back to doing Fridays again. It all depends. I also have to consider how many shows I want to aim for before maybe passing the torch to someone else or anybody who may want to do it. I never intended this show to be an open-ended. I started the Ncj podcast with every intention of eventually getting someone else to fill it in, if I could find someone and if anybody's willing to. Someone who's more capable than myself. I may try to aim for 50 shows, maybe 100. I'm not sure yet. We live streamed a week before last. My buddy Psychotic came over, and with his beautiful wife, we had every intention of playing a drinking game that I made. It's kind of like Jeopardy with different categories and stuff. But unfortunately, we had some issues. I lost all my questions, and I had to come up with some new ones quick. And I guess my questions that I came up with last minute were a little too tough. So the categories were Star Wars, Marvel, and underground music, and that shit that I know pretty good. So it eventually all just dissolved into us drinking. So since they couldn't answer a majority of the questions I came up with, we said fuck it. Let's just sit, drink, and talk. And Chunki decided to live stream a part of it. That was fun. So we may actually do that again someday. I might just invite people over, drink, something, and just record it all and have everybody, watch. But yeah, so I got an interesting show for you guys today. I got a little bit of a rant about the news, what happened in Florida. And later on, my wife Chunki, she joined me, and we're going to sit and talk video games. Stay tuned. News and current events. So, the supposed worst shooting in America took place this month. And no, we're not talking about Wounded Knee, which could be technically the most, worst shooting in American history. A gunman stormed a gay nightclub in Florida and killed 49 people and injured over 50 others. Now, most people listening probably already know the story, but let's get a few things straight. I'm not going to read the story for you, okay? You need to go out and read it yourself. If you don't know about this already, you're probably living under a fucking rock. So, the shooter had pledged allegiance to ISIS during the shooting. He called 911 and told the dispatcher that he was the shooter and that he claimed he was doing it in the name of the terrorist organization. Does this mean ISIS attacked the club? No, not really, okay? It sounded more like he was an ISIS fanboy. He didn't have any communication with any of the actual ISIS members or leaders, but he did probably sympathize with their beliefs. And now some rumors have been going around saying that he was gay himself and that something had happened with him and his gay lover. But I haven't seen or heard anything that can confirm that, and that's just rumors right now, okay? So what do we, as Americans, do? Blame something other than the shooter, of course. A large push was made to ban assault rifles and ban the sale of firearms to anybody on the terror watch list. Now, here's the problem with that, okay? Assault rifles are already banned in the United States. An assault rifle, by definition, is a rifle that shoots automatic. Full burst. That means one trigger pull, multiple shots. Brrrr, all that shit. The term assault rifle is being used to include firearms like the AR-15. You know, the big, black, scary-looking rifle that many politicians believe that shouldn't be in the hands of citizens like you or me. Guess what? The AR-15 is a semi-auto. It's not automatic. One trigger pull, one shot. Just like handguns. It's the equivalent of your average .22 caliber hunting rifle. Somewhere along the lines, many anti-gun folks believe this is the same type of weapon issued to our military. And you know what? I would not want to be armed in a war zone with a big scary pea shooter like the AR-15. So, when you hear anybody who's on the terror watch list shouldn't be allowed to purchase a firearm, that sounds great. And probably even feels good to say, right? Like you're making a change by saying that somehow. However, what they don't mention is that the list is inaccurate as fuck, okay? Anybody can be placed on this list, and they have no idea of it. There is something to be said about a secret list the government keeps on people without explaining how or why they got on it. That's, you know what it's like, on the terrorist list. You know who also does not like this terrorist list? The ACLU. That's right, the American Civil Liberties Union. The people that ensure our basic liberties aren't being stomped on spoke out against this list. Do you know why? Because for the government can take any rights away, they have to go through something called due process. That's basically the right you have to be told what you're being charged with. The Second Amendment was put in place to protect the average citizen from not only local threats at home, but the threat of a tyrannical government. Some people think that's not true. They think that the word well-regulated militia meant passing laws and restrictions. No. Well-regulated in those times meant working properly. If people still try to say, that the Second Amendment didn't apply to you or me, remind them of this quote George Washington said. When the government takes away a citizen's right to bear arms, it becomes a citizen's duty to take away a government's right to govern. If this same government can arbitrarily put you on a list and strip you of your rights without explaining to you why, then we should be suspicious of it. George Washington said it was our duty to take away their right to do such. If anybody tries to say that the Second Amendment was only made for muskets and not assault weapons, I would remind them that the musket was the assault weapon of the time. It wasn't put in the Constitution for hunting because everybody hunted back then. If you didn't, then you didn't eat. That's plain and simple. Now, I know this is a rant, but it's one that needs to be said. Gun crime has dropped while ownership has risen. The places with the strictest gun control measures like Chicago, LA, DC have the highest rates of gun crime. Guns proliferate in the United States, okay? And they have been for centuries. There's nothing we can do about it. There is no magic wand that we can wave to get rid of them all. So if you pass a law, it's only going to affect the people who follow the law to begin with. Criminals will get their hands on anything they can if they're determined to do damage and harm somebody. We can't legislate human psychiatry, okay? It just doesn't work. The only thing we can do is give people the right to defend themselves in case someone comes after them. And that's pretty much what the Second Amendment is for. That's all I have today for news and current events. I hope you guys enjoyed my rant. Whoop whoop. Geeking out. So, my wife Chunki and I played video games for most of our relationship. We're big nerds in that regard. So I have her here with me today to talk video games, specifically Blizzard games. So, babe.
Yes.
We kind of bonded over Warcraft. What game was it that you were playing when we first met? Was it RuneScape?
Yes, it was RuneScape. Okay,
explain to people what RuneScape is about for those who haven't played it.
RuneScape is a free-to-play fantasy MMORPG that's been out since about 2001, and it's pretty much just the cheapy version of like Warcraft.
Isn't it click to move? You click and then you move. It's not like actual WASD on the keyboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't get into it. So I then bought you WoW with all the expansions of the time. I think it was Burning Crusade. Do you remember what your first character was that you made? Do you even remember?
Well, that was like 8 years ago. I'm pretty sure it was an orc hunter named Gabbers.
I was gonna say I thought that was the first one too. Actually, you had the legendary equipment on it or something still, huh?
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. But when Wrath of the Lich King came out, you bought the expansion for me on Christmas, wasn't it? Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember you being a Death Knight from then on. Would you say that's your favorite class?
Yeah, it is my favorite class, but I also enjoy the druid since there's, a whole lot of different roles that you can play with it.
Yeah, the Death Knight's OP anyway.
Yes.
That's easy mode. That's why you always picked it, I think. So it was during the time of the Wrath of the Lich King that I can say we were hardcore gamers. I used to come home from work, hopped on, and we would do Ice Crown raids for hours. We were in a guild called Wunderbar. Weren't we ranked? Yeah, weren't we ranked pretty high on that server? Bleeding Hollow, I think.
Yeah. I know I was one of the top PvP, PvE geared Death Knights on the server for a while. And we had one of the top 5 guilds on the server that were 11, 12 heroic, 25 man working on heroic Lich King. Which is why we ended up switching servers as a guild to Ner'zhul, but we shortly broke up after.
Yeah, I recall the guild leader being a dickhead. You spent more time with them. I was only there for the raids because I had work. What were they like? Not during the raids.
Very drama filled. There were the guild leader and his best friend were in the guild, and then there was this girl from Brazil, and she was dating 2 guys from the guild, and there was just all this drama, and it just ended up breaking up just because they couldn't, focus on the game instead of real life.
I remember that. That didn't really help the stereotype of Warcraft nerds, being lonely virgins and shit.
Yeah.
So we don't play WoW as much anymore. What do you think would change that? What do you think WoW can do to bring you back as a player?
I think if they made it easier to catch up, if you've spent a little bit of time not playing it, I think it's just really difficult trying to grind and trying to catch up to the point of having the best gear that's out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that'll be pretty awesome.
I think it's a combination of that and the graphics, because I think the graphics have been really dated for a while. I hop on and it's just like
and free
grind.
Free transfers too, because sometimes the server gets sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It depends on how many people start playing. So if you want, if your server gets bad, you should be able to change.
That's true. And there's always that surge when there's a expansion that comes out. People play for a while and they stop playing, so your server can go dead hella quick.
Yeah, and no one else wants to play if there's no one else in there.
Yeah. So moving on, Blizzard has a card game called Hearthstone. We seem to switch back to that game, sometimes. Why do you think we are so on and off with it? We don't just actually stick with it. What do you think is that?
I don't think there are so many elements to the game that you can just play for hours on end.
True.
I also think that they make it kind of more difficult to get rare cards, and the people who do have rare cards just whip you to the curb.
That's true.
And you're just like, well, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, the tough part about it is you buy these quests for the card game, and once you beat it all, if you want to get the card back for that game or for that class, you have to do it again on heroic, and that shit's hard as fuck.
Yeah, and it's $20 for each hall that you want to download, and it's a set of cards.
So you can easily dunk $80 into this game just to get new cards and shit like that. So which class do you prefer playing in Hearthstone? Do you think one class is more OP than the others?
I prefer to play Jaina or Warlock, but honestly, I think it depends on your deck and on the not the level, but whatever game you're playing.
The different modes.
So it depends on the deck and the mode, really.
Yeah. The Warlock's hard to play too, because when the only hero ability he has is to actually take damage, and then you get a card, and sometimes it's not worth it. I think that's
but then in favor he has a lot of more OP cards.
That is true, because I have played him before and I haven't really sucked. So I suck pretty good at that game. So recently you've been playing Blizzard's MOBA, Heroes of the Storm. For those who don't know, MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. What's the easiest way to describe a MOBA to someone who's never played it?
MOBA is pretty much a lobby-based battleground queuing system. Its battlegrounds mostly have like lanes, turrets, towers, and a core on each side of the map that pretty much ends the game once you get to the other end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good way to explain it. And I think MOBAs have an advantage as far as casual players because you don't have to invest like hella time to, level up a character. You just hop in and you're as good as anybody as long as you don't suck.
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes to 40 minutes a match. So you can pretty much, go in and then you can get off.
Yeah, that's why it's really good for casual players. So before playing Heroes of the Storm, we were playing League of Legends. What are some of the major differences between League of Legends and Heroes of the Storms?
I'd have to say graphics, a lot of graphics. I really like the fact that the Heroes of the Storm characters, they're all based off of Blizzard games, all the different Diablo, StarCraft, all of those.
Yeah.
There are several other games that are just like those, like Dota and Smite, and they all have certain aspects to them that make it unique. But I tried all of them out, but I actually prefer Heroes of the Storm over all of them.
And, one of the biggest things that I noticed, and I think anybody who has played like League of Legends or Smite and then playing Heroes of the Storm, one of the big things you're going to notice is objectives. There's bosses, there's mercs, and there's like quests and stuff, all in the middle of an arena, which kind of throws a really interesting spin on it, I think. And I think people, it can be both to their advantage and disadvantage. Sometimes you have to worry about the mercs, sometimes you don't. What rank are you currently in Heroes of the Storm, babe?
Season just started like about a week or two ago, and I got placed into rank gold 3, and I'm getting promoted into gold 2 soon.
Yeah, that's good. I'm still qualifying, so because like I said, I'm not as good as her. She gets a little bit more time on this. What other games do you play?
Currently that's pretty much all I play right now, but when I do play Guild Wars 2, I play Star Wars, The Old Republic, WoW, League of Legends, Smite's a good one. It's a bunch of god-based characters, and they have a lot of lore, and it's pretty interesting.
Not only that, but it's a different kind of view. It's not a top-down camera.
Yeah, it's like first person.
Yeah, and actually, tell the listeners you can't really play first-person shooters.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I started playing Nintendo 64, and my dad was trying to get me to play, and I would get sick after 10 minutes of playing it, and I would go throw up. And it's always like that, and I'm like, what the hell? I want to play this. Like, I can't sit down and just play it. And it's happened all my life, and even 3D movies and certain things like that, and the doctor says I have vertigo, and I just can't handle the 3D aspect of it, or the moving of the cameras.
Yeah, I remember you couldn't even sit through one movie we went to go see. Do you remember what movie that was?
So many different movies, actually.
Especially like some of the Marvel movies, how when they're in fighting scenes, seems they've replaced actual like fighting movements with just cameras shaking, as someone's about to throw a swing, so you can't really see how weak or how far they didn't connect. And I think that kind of fucks with you a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Off topic a little bit. Hey, babe, so do you know who Zordon is from Power Rangers, the big face that the Power Rangers talk to?
Yeah.
Do you know who's going to be playing him in the new Power Rangers?
Who?
Bryan Cranston.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Bryan Cranston, Breaking Bad.
Oh.
Walter White.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was listening this morning. He's going to play Zordon in it. And do you know why?
Why?
This is crazy, and I didn't realize this either. But he voiced a lot of the villains in the old 90s show, Power Rangers. Yeah. I didn't know that either. I was listening to it. I was like, what the fuck?
That's so weird.
You think of all the Marvel and DC, shit that they want to get him in. You said yes to Zordon.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess the Blue Ranger, his name was Billy Cranston, is actually named after Brian. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us on this geeking out segment. My wife, go ahead and give them your handles in case they want to play with you.
I have a BattleNet ID. It's Darth Lilith #1903. That's DARTHLILITH #1903.
Yeah, so if you guys want to get on and play with her, she's always on most of the time anyway.
Yep. And Heroes of the Storm is free to play. You can download it.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So is Smite, so is League of Legends, and Hearthstone also.
Yeah, so even if you have a laptop, I recommend, I don't think it takes a lot.
No, it shouldn't. I don't think so. And if it does, just get a better computer.
Dude, it's so much better than a console.
Yes, PC Master Race over here.
We buy our own parts and get our own rigs made, and I think it's the amount you spend on keep updating consoles, and all you have to do is like pretty much update the memory and the graphics card now, and we're pretty much set.
Not only that, but you get Steam with PC. You can't get that with console.
Such cheap games.
Yes.
Every time I hear him, sale on Steam.
Yep, my wallet starts crying. She automatically starts getting ready to say nope.
Priorities.
Yep. Well, babe, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Whoop whoop, people.
Whoop whoop.
Late.